Hi everybody. So we continue talking about the SSI. So it's a core of modern Web 5, some folks call it, and it's a core of the secured, transferable, verifiable credentials. So this week is quite a good week for the SSI. I would say that it's a great one because you finally have the DID spec as a recommendation, so it's not a draft anymore. So the distributed identifiers finally stable, and actually our SDK supports the a bit older and modern versions of the DID documents. So yeah, and we will talk today about not just verifiable credentials, but about the interactions with the verifiable credentials. And actually here we have much bigger problems with the specifications, because you have the DID spec that declare quite well how the DID looks like, what kind of operations on DID you have, and it's quite a good one. We have the verifiable credentials spec that really well define the data model. All the parts of the VCs, what kind of formats you could use, and some of these specs actually declare the interactions between the different players, and we will talk about this more. But this spec do not cover actually what happens if we want, for example, to issue the VC, or what happens if verifier really wants to ask the holder to provide the VC. But let's talk about the roles. First of all, we have, according to verifiable credential spec, 3 roles. I would say that it's a bit more. What you need to understand, that you get some particular role only during the interaction. So if you decide, for example, to share the VC, so you issue something, you become the issuer, but on the same time you could be a holder, and if you are the issuer, you are the first verifier of the data that will be provided by holder. So what kind of roles we have? If we're talking about the issuance of VC, that we talk about the issuer, so the party who provide the VC to new potential holder, so the person who will receive the VC. And it's 2 quite critical roles. Another critical role is the verifier and holder, but sometimes in this type of interaction, verifier and prover, because prover actually is the person who proves something that verifier asks to provide. Yeah, for sure, in most cases, if you are trying to prove, you probably own the VC. But usually people ask, okay, I want to issue the VC to the person. What should I do? How we could transfer the VC to this particular person? And here began a lot of uncertainties, and we have at least couple of standards, we have a couple of different specifications here, and as you even know, the DIDs is not a part of VC spec, but here DIDs is crucial because, for example, one of the specs is the WACI, so it's wallet and credential interactions, and it's based on the didcomm. So didcomm actually is a separate specification that describes how we could exchange the information and messages between 2 DIDs. So you have 2 DIDs, and this DIDs is sufficient to actually exchange the messages between each other. We don't talk about the transport, we don't talk about how we exchange, how we persist these messages, but we define the data structures, we define the protocols, and this DID is already enough that you as a issuer could send the message to a future holder to receive a VC. And actually it's 2 huge protocols that part of the standard. First protocol, most complex one, the issuance flow, and the second protocol, actually it's the verification flow. In our SDK we have both flow implemented, but in slightly different manner. So it's somehow similar to the flows that I will describe, but in a more pragmatic way, so not so complex. First of all, a lot of people, if you're talking about issuance, think that issuer initiated the flow. It's true in most of the cases. So when issuer decides to issue the VC, he sent something to the holder called request for offer. But according to the spec, you could have a case when you as a holder goes to the authority or issuance and make the request for the VC. So you send them proposed a manifest of the VC and say that you want to receive the VC from them. So in theory, holder could be the active party that could start this initiation flow. But usually how it happens that issuer send his own DID, so the holder could verify the party and who sent the VC, and in our case, in our SDK, we send actually the VC if it's possible. And in our standards, usually the issuer sends something that's called the manifest of the VC. So this stuff have the description of the future VC and fields that are required. Some fields could be requested from the holder. It's more complex flow that maybe holder will provide some data, but you send the manifest of the future VC together with your data, then holder verify all this, and on the answer he could say that I want to request the VC, so I'm ready, and the holder actually could send something like a credential application, so it's the necessary data that could be mandatory for issuance the VC. So it's extremely complex flow that it's not just credential offer that you get the credential, validate the credential and say okay. It's more complex flow that you get show what you will get, you then provide that you are ready, and you say that it's extra data that you requested from me, here you go, and then actually you could even negotiate the price of the issuance during this process. And after that, actually what issuer do, issuer actually issue the real VC, send it to you, and you should return them the acceptance of the issuance, so that you store it in your wallet or you make some actions and now it's your VC. So it's a bit tricky, but it's this 5 potential stages. One of them are optional, that you could initiate as a holder the process yourself. You could provide the extra data, and in most cases you manipulate with the VC manifest. It's a separate specification, still on draft, and only the final step you get the full VC. So it's not declared where you store it. We solved this problem ourselves. In our SDK we have the nice shiny custodial wallet that will store all this VC for you, but it's one specification. It's the process of actually issuing the credential, and it's based mainly on didcomm, that you use the communication between two dids. In Affinity SDK, we, for example, for these purposes, use the messaging service that actually do the same functionality, but in a quite simplified way via the REST interface, that you are able to send some kind of message from one DID to another. So it's clear. Another quite big flow that is crucial is the request of proof, or for example request for verification. So, and it's usually quite simple, and it's well defined by VC, even a spec, but still have quite big room for other specifications that gets on play. And for example, one of the big specifications that gets on play here on request of proof is the exchange presentations. So usually how this flow looks like, verifier decide that he wants to receive from you some kind of data, and he sends you the request for verification. So it's yet another GVT or yet another JSON LD format. So it could go via the didcomm, yeah, as before. And in a payload, verifier describe what kind of data or what kind of fields even in VC should satisfy some particular criteria. The most common one that we satisfy that we want to get the VC of particular types. Or for example, in some particular types, some particular fields should be equal. For example, your age should be bigger than, I don't know, 21. Yeah, if you requesting a driving license to validate if you are allowed to buy some drinks or not, for example. Yeah, so, and it's quite simple one that holder receive this request, validate the verifier, understand what kind of verifier he talking with. After that, he goes, scans all his VCs in his wallet, find the VCs that really satisfy the criteria, pack them in quite special envelope. This envelope called the verifiable presentation. So it's not a VC, it's, let's say, the envelope for aggregation for the array of VCs that actually holder signed. During this process, they exchange the nouns, so the verifier will be able to open this envelope, and the verifier could prove that this envelope was received from this particular holder. And actually, it's quite simple that holder sent it to the verifier, and verifier received the data, and that's it. It's super simple, but still we have a little trick that actually, instead of sending the data, holder could send to verifier the proposal for a new presentation. So maybe you have slightly different data that could derive the same information, and verifier could decide if he wants to take the new kind of presentation and start the new flow. But this is really tricky flow that happens not so often. But here the key thing that you have the, as an answer, not the VC but the verifiable presentation. And what the main challenge of all these exchange protocols that we have, that specifications for them together with the specification for the universal wallet right now all on draft, and everybody have something own that cover these needs. They all unstandard, they all uninteroperable, and right now the interoperability we have only on the level of the VC data, but not on the level of the exchange protocols. And that's a huge challenge that we will need to solve in the SSI space in the near future. So right now we have the WACI, so it's a wallet and credential interactions that quite simple. It's two flows, a bit complex one, but they cover the need that they could exchange the VCs between the holder or proofer, verifier and issuer. But more interesting part of this triangle, it's actually relationships with the issuer and verifier, because you as a verifier could find who issues this VC, validate the signature, but it's not the end of the story, it's more about the identity. But then we have quite interesting part of the process that called the trust part. Yeah, so I know that we have some issuer, like, I don't know, recommendation from me, from Volodymyr Publisher, but we don't know should we trust this guy or not. And here, this connection between the verifier and issuer actually is the huge area of the web of trust, the recommendation systems, the reputation systems, and so on. And this is not trivial, it's not covered by protocols. You should somehow negotiate between the verifier and issuer, that verifier have some list of issuers that he trusts. And for example, for this, we could build the registries. Some of them could be on blockchain, some of them could be off-chain solutions that somewhere I, as a verifier, could scan the issuers, find some score or find some recommendation and decide should I trust to them or not. And this one is extremely challenging and an extremely interesting topic itself. So all as a summary, we have standards for exchange. In our SDK, we implement most common cases that allow us to exchange these VCs. We even have some kind of didcomm, but in quite simplified way. The specifications right now is not stable, and the most challenging part of interactions is the issuer and verifier that should trust somehow to each other. And I believe that majority of work and majority of benefits for the community will be especially in this space. That's all that I want to share with you today. So subscribe to our channel and see you, provide your feedback, take the notifications not to miss our SSI videos and some videos about the keys and all other things. Stay happy and build something with the SSI. Choose.